Kirby Smart is moving in the shadows where everybody else is failing. And I'm going to tell you why it's really important for the next upcoming season. Next, Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Glad y'all are here. Glad we are Friday. It is a weekend. Happy Valentine's Day to you. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, FanDuel.com. Thank you for the everydayers that are here every single day and the first listeners, as well as the loyal third segment listeners that listen all the way until the end. Today, we are talking about three things. We're talking about Kirby Smart moving with coaches. I mean, I'm telling you, he is doing something that not everybody else is doing in the sport, and people are going to try to copy them next. Like they will try, they will do their best, but Kirby is setting the precedent on what to do as it pertains to the coaching staff and how to make a culture within Athens. The second thing we're talking about is the combine and what look ahead, because a couple of notable Georgia players will be drafted that aren't at the combine. A couple of notable players that are at the combine for Georgia will show out. We're going to talk about who those people are to be looking out for. And then lastly, what this means for Georgia's future, as well as who the teams are that should be targeting some of these players. Don't listen to any mock draft whatsoever. Just don't do it. It's pointless. But first, let's talk about coaches and Kirby Smart. First thing to understand about how Kirby Smart does coaching, he prioritizes a few things. One, you have to have passion and you have to be dedicated to your craft. You can be, Todd Monken was a crazy, cranky old man, kind of that was the vibe he gave, right? And even in the NFL, and he's not a cranky, crazy old man, but the vibe he gave was, we just won the national championship. Let me walk to the elevator. I'm going to make y'all hold on and keep the door open for me as I do so. Kirby Smart takes people who are precise, who are particular. He staffs those roles really well because he himself is particular. He himself is passionate. Will Muschamp, come on down to Georgia. Let's get you in an analyst role. Let's get you still talking to some players, still with you in office here. Let's get you coaching for a while and then put you in that position because Will Muschamp is a particular type of person. Second thing Kirby Smart is doing with these coaching hires, that he has a number of guys already on staff, but with coaching and with the culture that he wants to make within the team is you cannot be disengaged from the lifeblood of these kids. You cannot just simply be an X's and O's guy. Doesn't work for Kirby. Doesn't work in college football. Doesn't work in life. Nobody actually hangs out with you because you're smarter than everybody else. Nobody cares for that person. You care about people that care for you and people that are in your life. Kirby is prioritizing coaches that do the same. It is not official because no announcement has been given, but all indications are that an analyst for Georgia is coming on down and is going to be an hands-on coaching hire for Georgia's backfield. It seems to everybody watching and looking, Andrew Thacker is going to go ahead and get that position of nickel coach. Now, this is really wild. We call it nickel coach, call it star, call it DB assistant, call it Kirby Smart 2.0. Kirby Smart is hands-on with the defense and hands-on with the secondary a ton. I mean, look, I love Dan. I love Glenn. I love these coaches that we have had on the defensive side that are coordinators that are calling plays. I love them. No shade thrown at Glenn Schumann nor Dan Lanning, but I am here to tell you the best defensive coordinator in all of college football is Kirby Smart. He has guys that grow up underneath him. He has guys that he wants to train for different positions. That's the other thing Kirby has an eye on with his culture. You can't be stagnant. If you are stagnant, you're not part of coach tree for Kirby Smart. You have to be dynamic. You have to always want the next thing to compete, not only on the field, but in the coaching circles as well. Andrew Thacker comes on over, has been with Georgia as an analyst. Kirby Smart glowed about him in November, talking about how great he was for the staff over there. And now it seems that he's going to be coaching up the star position, the nickel position, everybody else calls it in college football. This is big because we have a few notable guys that we're going to talk about actually in second and third segment that are moving on from Georgia. And when Georgia's defense has been exceptional, when Georgia's defense has been great, it's been because we've had alley fillers in the defensive backfield, because how college football is changing, and it has already changed, is you cannot simply be a DB that covers. Doesn't exist anymore. With the speed and the size and still wanting trenches to be up there, Kirby Smart is saying, I have to get a hybrid player. And really, inside linebacker is the crux, is the pinnacle of Georgia defense. But really, that star, that fifth defensive back, two safeties that kind of rotate through in that triangle. One comes up on the line depending on the formation or depending on the package that we have in. Two are in the back, man coverage, and maybe they'll come down into a tight end set. We got 12 personnel on the field. Kirby Smart prioritizing, absolutely prioritizing defensive back. And what that means for Georgia is that our safeties that need to develop, that have to develop, will be getting the attention that are so desperately need. Christopher Smith, Tyke Smith, Malachi Starks, Richard LeCount. These are names in recent years that have really made the defenses, Dan Jackson, standout, historic, incredible. Because once you put that fifth DB on the field and you could still take out the run, you could still man up on the trenches, you could bring some pressure off the edge, you can man up on an athletic tight end, you don't have to sub out as much, you don't have to go with a third linebacker on the field, Chris Cole type guy that can cover but is physical, can rush the passer. When you go ahead and stay in that 5 DB set and you don't have to sub out as offenses are going, it means historically good defenses for Georgia. And Georgia is now saying we're going to prioritize this because remember, we have KJ Bolden, who looked to have all the potential in the world, that needs to take a step up because he's the most senior of seniors, and he's a sophomore in the defensive backfield. We're losing tons of snaps. We're going to lean on Aguero a huge amount this coming year. I really do think, unless somebody else steps up in the star position, unless somebody steps up in the safety position, we might have to rely on some guys that are very, very green. Kirby Smart sees this. He knows this. He's wanting to get back to what made Georgia, Georgia. And he's going out and putting position, because this is one position. This is a fifth DB. This is a safety, a breakout of positional coaches, not defensive coordinator, but saying, hey, here's where all of my bread is made. Now, Thacker comes over before he joined Georgia within the analyst role. He was at Georgia Tech for many years, Temple, Kennesaw State, UCF Falcons as an assistant over there, and then graduate assistant Oklahoma State and UCF before going back to UCF as the safeties coach. He has a lot of tread yet to go in his coaching career, and he's had a great deal already on his life and experience that he's going to bring now to a hands-on on-field position, talking to these kids, getting them ready, because you can have analysts, you can get guys in position, X's and O's. That's fine. Hands-on is where Kirby cares most about. Jimmy's and Joe's, and we have a couple of standout guys that need to have specialized care and attention to take that next step. We talked about defensive line interior as well as safeties being of great concern for us next year. It still is. This goes a long way for me understanding that Kirby Smart is not satisfied with simply recruiting, with simply NIL, with simply defensive coordinator and scheme. He is now getting positions and getting guys into those positions all across the board. People are going to start copying this, and the defense is going to be copied. And now how he orchestrates a tree will be copied and ongoing, because he's the standard, guys. Kirby Smart is moving with these coaches. We're going to come back after this. I'm going to let you know some snubs in the NFL that just watched. Put on the tape, you morons in the NFL. But first, these. And these are, in fact, Factor. Factor is fantastic. You all need to get over there right now. Get over to Factor because if you haven't, you're missing out. I'm here to tell you why. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh. 40 options across 8 dietary preferences, whether it's Calorie Smart, protein, or keto. Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks. I love Factor. Stress free meal prepping planning is exactly what we need. Protein plus meals packed with flavor kept me full throughout the entire day. The convenience is unbeatable. You need to get over there. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/locked on college 50 off and use promo code locked on college 50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code locked on college 50 off at factormeals.com/locked on college 50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your next box. That's Factor Meals. Get over there right now. They are fantastic. You will love them. We're talking snubs because there are a ton of guys that got snubbed all over the place in the draft combine analysis, as well as the draft is going to come along, and people are going to get snubbed out of that. People are going to drop. People are going to accelerate and get higher up on there that shouldn't be. But Georgia, this is where I just NFL GMs. I don't understand you. I truly don't. Like if I'm to understand your full-time job is to watch, learn, and observe skill position players, trench players, offensive line, defensive line, the whole gamut. You're trying to find where the guys that have the most talent and the most coachability and the most ceiling yet to go that can come in and make your team better from day one and then 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 3 years from now. You orchestrate a roster, you comprise a roster, and what your job is to do, you don't have any other job than just to know talent, to get the people in the building that need to be there, supplement it with free agency, grow talent inside, develop these players, and the draft is the best place to do it because it's the cheapest form of talent that you can get. It's the most immediate form of talent you get, and you can control it. Free agency and trades you can't control. Trade value goes out the window. Free agency is a hot mess because you're going to overpay for these players that you're paying for what they have done, not what they will do. The draft is where you make all of your bread. So if I'm an NFL GM, I don't know why I'm doing anything other than actually turning on film. Football is not in a vacuum. Ask the 49ers and Trey Lance. But look at his physical ability. Okay. Can he throw a football? No? Cool. No, thanks. I turn on the film. Well, look, he looked really impressive against. It's why when Joe Flacco was coming out and all of a sudden people are like, oh, Joe Flacco, but look, he's in Delaware State. He can rip the ball in film, and even with guys around his legs, even with lesser competition, he was still pinpoint accurate, put the ball where he needed to go, and he had a cannon arm in the game. It's why he shot up. Josh Allen, same thing. Patrick Mahomes, same thing. Texas Tech, Wyoming. I don't care. Josh Allen, even Patrick, the names weren't the notable names as everybody else in the draft because we get starstruck, and I don't get it. The same thing is happening right now at Georgia. Dan Jackson is not invited to the combine. And NFL combine people, as well as GMs, you will suffer for not taking Dan Jackson at the draft at some point. I'm not saying round 1, 2, 3, but I'm saying if you need safety help, if you need special teams help, which, by the way, everyone does. It just point blank, every single team needs those two aspects. Punt is still part of the program. And if you, NFL, I don't know how else to say this. It's so cliche, and yet it's true. It's the hidden yardage. It's the yardage that you need a high floor on your team to have success. A high floor. Look at the Lions. The Lions this last year had a very high floor because of how their roster was developed and because of how that coaching staff treats players and develops them. They lost everybody from that defense and made it almost to the Super Bowl because their floor was so high and yet their ceiling was even higher. You need talented players. It's not a throw off. You can't just throw away punt coverage or punt return or any of that. You can't throw away special teams at all. You can't throw away depth on a roster of a guy that is smart, tenacious, and loves to hit. I've just described that Dan Jackson, and those are all, yes, mental aspects of the game. But you also can't deny the fact that he kept up in the SEC. There were a couple of plays in which he got overmatched early on in the season that I watched progress to the end of the season. He wasn't getting beat by more physical, faster players any longer. Part of that was headiness. Part of that was learning. Also, part of that is him getting better as a physical athlete. Dan Jackson should absolutely be at the combine. I don't know why this is so controversial. I don't understand why NFL GMs hate good players. I really don't. Dan Jackson's not there. A number of other players I know haven't been invited, and the combine's not everything, because eventually we're going to start realizing that the combine doesn't measure footballness. The combine is an echo chamber of affirming what I want affirmed. Will Levis goes higher than he should have been. The kid from Louisville that was a top 15 pick at tackle for the Jets that just got cut and now actually went back, is now on the Eagles as guard, won a Super Bowl where he should have been interior. He should have been a top 15 left tackle because everybody fell in love with the combine and his wingspan and his junk. Combine is affirming what the film says, and yet people flip that around and they say the film will confirm what the combine said. No, it won't. No, it won't. Y'all, at one point in my life, I was able to run a 4.35 laser 40. That was cool. I'm not talented at football, but like in a laser line, I can run that. That's easy for me to do. I could train. I can get going. Okay, blah, 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 blah. When you actually turn on film is when DMs should be making their bread. And Dan Jackson is nothing other than a football player. Draft him. Thank me. Like we all told you to draft Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. Oh, that was not hey, let's get the thumbs up, not the thumbs down. If you're over on audio side, you didn't just realize I was putting up my fingers to count and the video thought I was giving a thumbs down. I'm not. Jalen Carter, Tyke Smith, Christopher Smith, Lassiter. These are all names that when you turn on the film, look and are showing out. DeAndre Baker, before when we said he was a lockdown corner, he was a lockdown corner until some stupidity all around got him messed up. Why do you question what you know to be true? Like you all overthinking yourselves. Don't overthink this. He can help any team immediately. If you don't think that he's a starter in the NFL, you're wrong. He is. But even if you don't think he is somebody that needs to be in the conversation as part of your developmental system to come in behind somebody, because you always need guys that can come down the slot. I just got done talking about how Kirby Smart is getting coaches in here to just focus on the star position within Georgia's defense because it's so important and vital. The NFL is no different. That position is invaluable and vital as well. Because if you can get a guy like Dan Jackson to cover somebody and take on a running back at the same time, which he has shown in the SEC that he has no problem doing, it makes too much sense. The NFL's a joke. I don't understand it. Nothing about the NFL makes any sense to me. The fact that the Browns are still in existence should be proof enough. We're going to come back after this. I'm going to talk about some guys that are going to be at the combine that I'm here to tell you are going to show out. But first, these. And these are, in fact, FanDuel. FanDuel.com. Get over there right now. FanDuel is fantastic. Whether you're NBA action, All-Star break coming up, you can go and get some props in on that. Just take the over, whatever it is, all the time. FanDuel can place live bets throughout the game. Even if you miss the opening or the fourth quarter comeback, you can still, anytime in that, you can still get in on the action. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Doesn't matter. I'm not missing out. I don't have to go, well, the start of the game has already happened. Nope. Guess what? FanDuel has live betting. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. That's fanduel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting app of the NBA. All right, we're talking about them dogs are going to absolutely show out. And by the way, loyal third segment listeners, we're glad y'all are here. We glad that you guys are part of the 199, the club that is with us through thick and thin, ride or die. So happy to have you all. We're talking about the draft check-in and some guys that should be drafted and some lunacy people. I didn't even give them the time of day on X and Twitter because I saw this from somebody talking about Jalen Walker. I don't want Jalen Walker covering anybody in coverage. You're the same moron that said Jordan Davis couldn't make it in the NFL because he wasn't going to be able to rush the passer. He's disrupting the middle of that pocket just fine. He's getting to the quarterback. He's causing havoc. And just because stat junkie morons want to get on the Twitter sphere and say, well, look at the sacks numbers for Nolan Smith. Yes, they sound like that. Nolan Smith didn't have that 3.5 sacks, didn't have the sack numbers, and yet in the NFL is a force that just won a championship with guys like him. Don't do the silliness. Stop it with the silliness, y'all. If you don't understand, a couple of these guys, Jalen Walker is going to be an absolute stud in the NFL. You were the ones that let Nakobe Dean go to the second round and now is a leader on the number 1 defense in the NFL. You were the same guys that skipped out on Jalen Carter. If you think Jalen Walker is not worth your time, that he's a liability because I don't want him covering nobody, I just want him coming off the edge. And even at edge, there are better people in the draft process that I would take. And I'm gonna name a guy from Boston College as the guy I'd rather have. Okay. First of all, I'm not saying a kid from Boston College isn't going to be good. That's not what I'm saying. I don't know, but he could very well be. He could take the league by storm. He could be another Watt brother that just gets downplayed all day long and turns out to be NFL all world. Okay, sure. Great. Might be. But unless you are in from the future and know this to be certain, the better likelihood between Boston College kid, and I'm not trying to rag on him, and Jalen Walker, there's a higher likelihood Jalen's going to hit than anybody else. Not anybody else, but 5 other guys. And you're going to take those 5 other guys ahead of him because some guy says, oh, I saw him in coverage. I didn't like what I saw in coverage, so he can't do it. People said the same exact thing. Nakobe Dean couldn't stand up against offensive linemen. He's fine. Jalen Carter doesn't have work ethic. Okay. Jordan Davis can't get after the passer. False. They're all false. They're fake narratives. And part of this is, I don't know. Truly and honestly, I'm not putting on my tin hat of Jimmy C holding on to an offensive playbook for the second half of the season like I did a couple of years ago. That was embarrassing. I'm not saying that with my tinfoil hat. I am saying this. I'm saying that it's not above me to imagine that people are putting out hit pieces to watch other players get drafted to drop their stock. Maybe that's what's happening with a guy like Jalen Walker. Maybe if you look at Michael Williams, who was at one point a top 5 draft pick and production was lower. Well, I hate to break it to y'all, that the Georgia machine, and this is when nobody watches college football. That, again, I'm confused at what people do for a living. If your profession is to watch the prospects that are going to come up, draft analysis or NFL GMs, watch college football every once in a while. Because Georgia is not Boise State. Boise State has 5 guys that might be able to play elsewhere, and they need to lean on them all the time. Georgia will rotate guys through because Kirby wants them to have longevity in the league, and so isn't going to waste them and and throw all of their livelihood away. So he rotates them through. He's not a guy that's looking for stats. He's looking for wins. He's looking for a team because football is a team sport still yet today. The best quarterback in the world lost in the Super Bowl in the NFL. It's still the same there. Okay. Travis Kelce tried to throw around Jordan Davis and got punked. Couldn't happen. It's a team sport. And Kirby Smart, how he comprises games and how he looks after games and how he develops games is the Kentucky. It's the Kentucky motif, the thing that Georgia fans hate. I'm going to win. I don't care how. I'm going to put players. So Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, Chris, I need to develop the younger guys. I have roster management to consider. I have NIL and transfer portal to look through. And so Michael Williams is not going to break the SEC sack record. I don't think anybody at Georgia will, unless they get 50% of their pressures turned into sacks, because he wants them to go off in the NFL and have success. He wants players to feel like they can play from day one and compete and do so. And they have, and they will continue. So I'm here to tell you, Jalen Walker is not somebody you need to concern yourself taking in the second round. Take him in the first round. He's Channing Tindall. Maybe better. I don't know. Some of the stuff I saw last year, it looked to me to be better with pass rush move and leverage off the edge. Flat burst speed, maybe Channing Tindall has a little bit on him on that. He's not Roquan Smith. You're right. No one's Roquan Smith. He's Channing Tindall, though. So if you think that's worth a first-round grade, which the Green Bay Packers did, don't overthink it, because the Green Bay Packers are using a youth movement to go ahead and make the playoff push every single year, and a defense that is all world as well up there. Okay. Let's just be fine with guys like that. And Eric Stokes, I'm talking about Green Bay with guys from Georgia, by the way. Channing Tindall having success in the league. Stokes having success before he got injured. Devontae Wyatt up at Green Bay. These are the teams that I'm talking about have the same mentality as the Eagles. Just stop it. I don't get it. Jalen Walker is a first-round pick. Michael Williams is a first-round pick. Malachi Starks is a first-round pick. These three guys ought to go in the first round, and they will be taken by teams that value and know college football, don't think that it's a superimposed version of the NFL. The NFL, you got your starting five lineman offense, go run with it. You got your pressure packages, you run with it. Those smart, savvy GMs, those who actually study, who know the flow of the game, who know the culture of college football is different than NFL, will take these guys and not look back and not care about it. 3 players should be drafted in the first round from Georgia. If you want to add Tate in there, I'm not going to hate you. I haven't seen it. I really haven't from Tate. I would put him a second round grade, but if you take him in the first round, I'm not mad about it. Offensive lineman, interior. That's why I don't think he actually goes. That's why I think he's a second round. Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, Malachi Starks should all go in the first round. Fight a wall. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. We'll see you guys next time.